welcome back. We're still continuing our coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So far, we've told you more sanctions heading Russia's way from the UK, as these sanctions target Russian aircraft entering UK airspace. Also, we mentioned earlier, corporations are already shutting down in Russia. The Chinese president, who is also an ally of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, has called for maximum restraint, saying he's pained to see the flames of war reignited in Europe, according to Chinese media. He was speaking with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. We've also been reporting explosions in the capital, Kyiv, and its surrounding areas. Journalists there are warning of blasts going off and air raid sirens going off again and again, understanding how terrifying this is for many residents. The sirens are going off in Kyiv, in Chernihiv, in Lubny, in Poltava, in Vasilkiv, and areas local to many of these parts. We understand that also refugees which have left Sumy might be taking some of these routes as they try to get out of the country. Those alarms signal potential danger from airstrikes, now a warning to residents to take shelter in bunkers if they have not already done so. Stephen Hayes joins me now. He's in Washington, an expert on Ukraine and Russia relations, as well as the ongoing crisis and the conflict happening in the country at the moment. Stephen, thank you for joining me on the program this morning. I don't... Oh, there we go.
There is no sound here. I'm trying.
Oh, now I can hear you. I can hear you now. Well, thanks for joining me, Stephen. And I'm sure that you have some thoughts on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. What is it the world is not seeing about Russia as it advances across across Ukraine? Apologies, we seem to be having problems with Stephen's audio. We'll try to fix that and get back to discussing with Steve. But Oladende Ariel, security analyst, is with me here in the studio. Thank you for joining me this morning.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. I hope you don't have anyone in Ukraine at this moment.
I nearly secured Lithuanian passports.
Wow. But would you have lived there?
With this threat now, it would have been a disastrous decision. If you had worked out then, I probably would have moved. But as it is, it would be a bad dream.
Okay, well, that's a personal matter, your movement, so I wouldn't probe any further. But of course, you're watching what's going on.
Right.
And what's going through your mind as you're seeing, the way Russia is going about this war?
Thank you very much.
And the fact that civilians are kind of seem like the targets here.
I don't see it as a Russian-Ukraine crisis. It's Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Because obviously they have everything. They're far more empowered than Ukraine, to put it that way. And that consciousness was behind the threat and the real action that Russia has taken so far against Ukraine. I agreed that Russia didn't want Ukraine joining NATO, but the fact remains that Ukraine is a sovereign nation, and whatever decision they felt they want to take must be in their own interest. Now, war or attack and massive destruction of this magnitude should have been the solution. They should have negotiated, which I think at the end of it all, that's where they will end. So it's not been a fair deal at all to Ukrainians. So many lives have been lost. The figures we are giving, they are estimations, because when the building comes down, in that situation, nobody has the chance to go and begin to count, undertake a body count. They just assume figures, And in this modern age, we shouldn't be experiencing so much carnage when we were searching for global peace.
Yeah, everyone wants peace. Even the Russians say that they want peace. We've seen them protesting on the streets. But is it possible to have peace now with what Russia has done? I mean, even if it decides to pull back from Ukraine, with all the damage that has happened already.
Damage that has been done to Ukraine, it may be a little bit difficult and tough. But as it is, they've taken the beating, okay? So it will be in their interest if Russia now brings the olive tree to embrace peace and begin to work towards reversing, if possible, as much as they can, because the damage is massive. I was in Damascus before Syria was bombed, and after the bombing, the images I saw on the television was very scary. Buildings that I knew, that I walked into, that I spent time in, and you saw them become total rubbles. So where will Ukraine even start from now?
I know a lot of people are, finding similarities between what's happening in Ukraine and other conflicts that have taken place as well. And one of them, of course, is Afghanistan. But I think that, in modern day peacetime, it's a pretty scary situation. And
Absolutely.
The fear now is that Russia is not going to end with just Ukraine. There's a statement that the Russian president is trying to make. And some analysts have said it is not about taking over Ukraine. It's not about creating a new USSR. This is about Russian dominance.
And then trying to weaken Ukraine, because there's no doubt about the fact that Ukraine has a robust economy, the biggest and the largest after Russian economy, and it has a far more better organized economy, whereby a whole lot of countries, even across Africa, they rely on Ukraine for so many things, from uranium to fertilizer and so many other things, including petroleum products as well, which all are being made impossible now. So at the end of the day, it will have achieved its intention, because Ukraine will have been brought down, to all the force. So they will have to start rebuilding their nation. Whereas on the side of Russia, I don't think they've recorded any serious damage.
No, because the war has been fought in Ukraine, that's why.
Exactly, that's why I said it's not a crisis, it's an invasion of Ukraine by a superpower, or a superior power, who thinks it has all it takes.
Yeah, but Ukraine is not the only one losing here, right? Even though this war has been fought.
I just told you that if I had moved to Lithuania and my friend who was going to another country, one of those small islands, we were like, oh, thank God we didn't move, because if we had moved with the threat and then the way it's bringing down on their necks, nobody is safe. He may wake up tomorrow and target any other country, and before the world will say anything, he will have hit the country. Unfortunately, you see the weakness of UN as a global body in charge of managing affairs, because I have not seen any serious move on their side to prevail, on Putin.
Do you think that's probably deliberate, or that's probably deliberate, isn't it? Because the UN is trying to stall a world war, and I think that's the main goal here. Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and they vetoed a resolution that was supposed to hold last week. And, the UN Security Council got together and said, yes, you may be able to silence the vote, but you cannot silence our voices.
Okay.
Many have accused the UN of being weak. I mean, we really wonder, what role the UN is playing in this. But we've seen humanitarian agencies on the ground trying to take care of refugees with medical aid and all of that. That's the role the UN is playing right now. But as to what you're saying, were you expecting the UN probably setting boots on the ground in Ukraine to help fight this? Doesn't that worsen the situation?
I expected them to have established contact with Putin on whatever platform or level, whereby they will persuade him to let him see reason why he should discontinue with the campaign. You see, because when you say you are bombing, you are killing people. I mean, there is no community without human beings. You won't have buildings everywhere without human beings. So when you bring down a bomb, or you drop a bomb on a city or a village or a town, you are killing people. And there is I don't now know what joy he derives from all of that, apart from the fact that he wants to weaken Ukraine.
You think that's his strategy?
Yes.
Wait, but to what end if he's weakening Ukraine?
He wants to be the dominant power in that hemisphere. Because by the time if Ukraine had joined NATO, it would be a greater threat to the Russian authority and might in that area. But as it is now, Ukraine will be busy battling and fighting to rebuild their country, okay? To give their people a new life, a new beginning now. I mean, the living ones. And then why they're allowed to bury and mourn their dead, those ones that can be found anyway, because a lot have been buried under rubble and may never be found. So to that extent, he has achieved his intention. So if they will persuade him, like I said, reaching out to him through any platform.
But that's what President Macron has been doing. I mean, 2 days, I think, before this war started, the French president was in Russia. He had a sit-down with President Putin, and other global leaders have also reached out to him, like you're saying, and nothing has persuaded him. The Russian president has an agenda. He has a strategy to this, and if we've studied Vladimir Putin over the years, this is his modus operandi. He must have spent years planning this, and now he's executing this, and he will not stop until he's done.
Achieves his intentions.
Until he's done. So these diplomatic avenues that you're mentioning, I don't know how effective they are. Do you still have faith in them?
We cannot leave him to his whims and caprices. Right away, they've had extensive damages done. As I'm talking to you, Damascus has not recovered, okay, since it was bombed by Russia. And if that has been like that, Ukraine has taken far more pummeling than what they had in Syria. So to that extent, it will take them much longer time to find their bearing. So it would be nice if, like you said, everybody was projecting that it may lead to a world war. But so far, common sense has prevailed.
You don't think we're still... You don't think the world is still under a threat of a war?
Absolutely, the threat is very present. It's staring us in the face. But to the extent that the other nations, NATO and all of them, they've not gotten into the fray, i.e. by sending bombs to Russia. Perhaps if they've been doing that, then Putin will no longer care. He might deploy nuclear weapon.
You might support a no-fly zone over Ukraine?
I wouldn't want that, because they may lose their sovereignty at the end of the day.
You're talking about stopping Russia.
Yeah.
You could only stop Russia right now militarily.
Remember that Kiev was the original capital of Russia, the old Grand Russia. So that connection will always be there. It's like an umbilical cord thing, right? But I would prefer the world leaders now, the ones that they have the clouds, not to relent. There's a point you go in a war or in a fight or in a disagreement where you get tired, or you just choose, okay, out of maybe respect or something or compassion, you let it go. It cannot, if it continues for another week or two, then we may be seeing a third world war.
Do you really think that? Well, let's talk about the humanitarian situation, which you have been putting right in front, of all of this, and which is the number of people who are leaving. Nigerians are still on their way out of Ukraine. The last set of evacuations are taking place from Sumy, and those guys have been there for a while before, while the fighting and the bombings and shellings were going on. They're about the last people to actually leave Poland, Ukraine at this time, and are trying to head to the border. And we're hearing about, more blasts, series of blasts reported even in areas close to them on their way out. Yeah. What about the ceasefire,
In every situation.
Apparently, Russia is already violating that, and Russia proposed this ceasefire.
Right.
It was agreed between Russia and Ukraine, and another day of ceasefire has been agreed as well. Russia violated this ceasefire. Do you think it also amounts to war crimes, like Russia was asked to face the ICJ?
I think I read a report by the International Criminal Court or something that maybe they're making some moves, right, to start compiling charges against Putin. But for me, it's neither here nor there. In every war situation, there must be collateral damages. And that's how I see some of these things. Unfortunately, Ukrainians began to show their racism, okay, by the way they were treating not just Nigerians now, actually all the blacks, at the border of Poland. If you watch the video, inside the train where a Ghanaian was asked to leave for an indigene. And of course, there were shouts of they were moving only the nationals away from the war zone, leaving non-nationals to suffer the fate. For me, it's a call, a wake-up call for Nigerian government, for them to know that when things have been what they should be here, those 16, 17-year-olds who had to seek education in Ukraine would have been here. But because we didn't get it right here, and we are still not getting it right, that's why you saw them. When I saw the 17-year-old girl that said she had worked for 12 hours, my tears dropped. Because I imagined she could have been my daughter. And how will I have managed watching her on television, running through all of that? You know, they've been so distraught and then traumatized that I doubt if they want to go back. Unfortunately, coming back to Nigeria again, for them, it's a zero-sum game. Because they ran away because they couldn't find their level here. Now they are back here. So government has to do a lot more beyond just bringing them back and then giving them $100 as they did. You know, they still, I mean, they need to be rehabilitated anyhow. And then they should consider admitting them into available spaces in the universities in Nigeria so they can continue their education. More than each one of them are there, they're either studying pharmacy, medicine, or any of the medical sciences. So you can understand how great it would have been if that class of people were to have finished their education and returned to Nigeria in the face of the emigration of our medical professionals living in large numbers. So for Nigeria, it's not a good omen at all.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of them are concerned about their educational future. Some have even tried to, migrate to other countries.
Other countries. Some people say they're not coming to Nigeria.
Yeah, that's understandable. Unfortunately, universities are still on strike. ASU is still on strike, so that's quite a issue that they have to also face. But if we're going to relate this to Nigeria, I mean, we're also going through our own type of conflict here. I mean, we still have, those cases of banditry attacks and Boko Haram attacks in the northeast and so on. And here we are talking about Ukraine and, how they are standing up to the Russian troops. You have civilians who are standing up to the Russian troops. Now, we can't confirm that, Nigerians really wanted to go to Ukraine to go and fight. No, but really, I mean, that show of patriotism, you think that we could have anything like that here?
I can confirm to you that a lot of Nigerians who had no military training or combat experience are very ready to go and fight in Ukraine. I spoke to one of them who said, even if he gets killed, whatever entitlement that may belong to him will be sent home to Nigeria to take care of his family. That shows despondency. And then, of course, hopelessness, which for me, it's unfortunate. Now, I doubt if Nigerians will willingly want to fight, on the side of Nigeria in some of these cases that we have. Why? Because so much has been thrown into all of these wars, either in banditry or terrorism, over the years. And when you look at productivity against expenditure, they're not at par. We've spent so much money, and then we cannot see good results. Unfortunately, we also recorded massive casualties in terms of troops. So these are not what will encourage anybody to say, okay, I'm raising my hand to fight for Nigeria. So it will be best that the executive now, working with the legislature, will rejig the military, bring up new strategies, empower intelligence gathering, because that's the platform that delivers strategies to the fighters. So that way, we may be thinking of overcoming Boko Haram and every other insecurity that we have in Nigeria. But to think that the average Nigerian will want to go and join the army voluntarily like that, I doubt it.
Indeed.
The people are disillusioned already, okay? They're distraught, and then they're hungry. You must get that. The cost of living here keeps spiraling. This morning, heard that diesel is about 625, aviation fuel 570, kerosene is even no longer reachable to the poor masses, which of course is the only way, to get energy. They're now having to go to cutting trees and using sawdust. Those belong to the past ages, not this digital information age.
Well, the lessons that we're learning from the situation in Ukraine. Mr. Oladende Ario, thank you so much for speaking with me. I appreciate your coming down here to talk to us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.